Hey you guys, this is Josh with Homesteading Family, and today I am up by the pond. We have about a 1 acre pond on this property, and we've been doing a lot of work, and I wanted to take a few minutes just to share this with you and to share it in the context about owning or buying a new homestead in the first few years on your homestead or on your property. And when you're buying property, when you're thinking about moving out onto the land, whatever scale it is, whether you're buying a half acre, you're buying 100 acres, when you're gonna get out on the land, there is a whole lot of work to do. And we're always very, very fueled by the dream, by what we're gonna do and what we're gonna accomplish. And then the work sets in. And we don't realize, I don't think any of us realize how much work is involved. And sometimes, and this pond project that I'm going to talk about here in a second is one of those things that just take a life of their own. And one of the things you got to expect and that you should plan for when moving out to the country or moving out to a piece of property is that you're going to have 3 to 6 years of intensive work. So you're going to have high inputs with what we call low outputs. And everybody's project's going to be different. We've got a pretty large scale here. We've just are rehabilitating this 1 acre pond. We've dug out some other ponds. You guys have probably seen some of the terracing we're doing, along with rehabbing the barn and taking old gardens. There's just all kinds of things happening. It's a lot of work, and it's actually a lot of work for the reward at this time. And I want to give you a word of encouragement because we see a lot of people burn out. They take off with a dream and they get into a few years of it, and it's just constant work and it's constant expense, and that can be really, really challenging, and you can get burnt out and feel like there's never an end to it. But the reality is that's what you need to do to get started, to build a system where you're going to survive from the land or live off of it part way, or whatever your goals are. It takes a high amount of input in the beginning, and over time there's a curve where the inputs are up high and the outputs, the return that you get is down low. But as you make wise decisions and as you make investments and as you work hard and put that sweat equity in, you're going to hit a plateau. And you should even try to plan this out where you get a maximum amount of work done, and then you start to trail it off and you start to move toward what's going to be a long-term normal. And as that happens, you're going to start to reap the rewards and the fruit of that work, and your return is going to start to increase while the workload starts to go down. And somewhere out there in the 7 to 10 year mark, you're going to maybe start to hit a flow and a balance. But it's a long-term game what we're doing, and what we're doing here at Riverbend on our farm, it has a generational purpose to it. And so it's why we're willing to kind of scratch and claw and figure out whatever we can to pull the resources together to do some of these major projects that are very hard to come back and do later after we, say, plant an orchard out here behind us, or a pasture, or other things that go in. It gets very hard. And so we've just done something really, really neat here with this pond, and it's about 1 acre in size, and it was very shallow. We think it was put in probably 80 years ago, and when we bought the property, the guy had been here for 40 years and it had never been dug out. And so this pond, while it was really cool looking, it was only 1 to 2 foot deep in a lot of it, a few places a little bit deeper. And as part of our systems that we're developing, besides wanting a pond to play in and swim in and kayak in and just being thankful for this beauty that's all around us, we also want productive systems. We want to be stacking functions, and we want to be creating an environment that everywhere while we're enjoying it's also producing something. And so this pond is a perfect opportunity for a pretty large scale aquaculture, primarily fish. And we can grow trout in here, we can grow bass, we can grow different types of sunfish, but the reality is it really wasn't set up. And so as I've been redoing pasture and been thinking about an orchard that was going to go outside of this pond, and we built Mom and Dad's house behind us, I started realizing that I wasn't going to have access to this. I wasn't going to be able to get the equipment in here to do what needs to be done to create an environment that we could actually have fish. And I don't mean fish just for catching once in a while on the weekend. I mean part of our regular food supply that can supply the property and the 10 to 15 people and sometimes more that are always here. And so we took some time to bring some equipment in and had a wonderful neighbor up the road that is a little more retired, but is an expert at that, and was able to come in here and dig at least a section of this pond out. We couldn't do the whole thing. That was a scale way beyond anything we could even begin to afford to do, but we were able to at least take a section here and clean this pond out, as you see with that that crane, and what that's called is a dredge that's reaching out and digging the pond out and creating what will be in a few years. And again, this is a long-term gain. This pond's going to take probably all summer just to clear out, just to get the water quality back after all the mud's been stirred up. But then before the winter comes, we can stock this with fish. And that's going to be really, really exciting. We've also created a little more edge around the pond and opened it up in an area in here that's mostly this is going to be for fun for the kids and a little bit of a beach area for them to play in. But it's the beginning of also improving our wetlands out there and creating some access to other areas of the forest that we're going to leave a little more wild. And so it's really, really exciting. And what we didn't realize was going to happen was that we've got twofold benefits. As we've dug the pond out, we have now ended up with a crazy amount of peat bog material that is just super, super wonderful for creating fertility and for creating topsoil. And while it looks like a mess right now, if you just see this, you can see the equipment's been through here. It's muddy. Matter of fact, I've got to be careful where I even walk out here, because we could sink in up to our knees in some places, because this all just came out of the water and it's a big old huge mess. But it's created a fantastic opportunity once we can clean it up. There's going to be an orchard down this whole bench right here, and this is very, very rocky soil, very, very depleted. There was some brush growing in here that we had to clear out, but it just wasn't worth a whole lot. And we've been wondering how we're going to handle this, and we ended up with a great solution by clearing out the pond and doing that work. This soil is now going to get able to be spread down this whole bench and even behind me here. That's going to lay the foundation first for a great pasture, and then over time a great orchard. And that is just really, really exciting to us. Yes, it's a lot of work. Yes, it's a big expense. Yes, it looks like a mess, and when you drive by our house right now, it looks crazy. But it just brings me back to that point where I started at here, is that you've got to have long-term vision when you're coming out and coming out to the land and to do something. Again, it doesn't matter the scale. This is a large scale. We're super blessed to be able to do this, and it's, you know, causing us some sacrifice right now in other areas, but it's well worthwhile, because eventually there's going to be an orchard here that will probably be a commercial project, and that my grandkids and even their grandkids will be able to harvest fruit for, and that their parents will be able to tell them about all these stories about what happened, and that just builds into the richness of it. And so while it's real exciting to think about ponds and about orchards, I just want to encourage you guys, in whatever you're doing, whether you're out on the land and you're struggling to make it, whether you're thinking about moving to the land and thinking about a homesteading type project, it's an exciting venture, but it's a lot of hard work, and I want to encourage you to hang with it and to have a long-term view, to think not in years, not even in decades, but in generations. And that's something that fuels us, that makes it worth the while in the long, hard days and all the things that we're going through to build what we call Riverbend now up into one day what is going to be a sustainable farm or homestead that we can just demonstrate good stewardship on, that we can provide for our family and friends with, and probably even into the community eventually with different small-scale economic enterprises. And that is just a beautiful future for the kids. I know a lot of you out there have goals towards that. You're working on it, or you're dreaming about it. So go for it, stand fast, pursue your dreams, and remember that yes, it's a lot of work, but it's all worth it in the end. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for being a part of Homesteading family, and I'll see you soon.